Hey everyone, Cynics here, and welcome to my video sketchbook. I'm going to try and create some fun art for you guys while hopefully giving some useful information and maybe telling a story or two along the way. So you may have noticed the title for this episode is GunBound, and that actually refers to the Korean online game that was popular a while ago, when I was younger anyway. And it's basically like a Worms style artillery game where you sit in your little tank and you try to fire something up into the air and get it to land on the other players, accounting for wind and all that stuff. But it was a really fun online free to play game that was kind of popular. And I was feeling a bit nostalgic for it, so I thought I would try to create some art. And you can see, instead of just going for a basic normal pose, I like to bring in crazy perspective whenever I can. Try to make it a really dynamic angle. So you can see I'm moving stuff around because obviously when you have a dynamic angle, the positioning on all the limbs becomes extremely important, because even just moving it a few pixels will result in it looking really far off. So you can see there's my reference pictures. There's the standard default girl from the game, as well as the grub, which isn't actually a vehicle you get to use in the game, but you use it just to kind of float into the vehicle select screen. But for some reason, it always stuck out in my head as being a cool design. I always liked this little grub ship. So it has like a little propeller on the bottom and you fly around. It's like a little flying moped or something. But I'm just jumping right into colors. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with the colors, so I kind of threw in this green background. Obviously, it's a high angle shot, so you're gonna have ground beneath her. And the game was kind of bright, so I thought I'd try to bring in some more grassy springtime colors. But you know, it's kind of iffy at this point. I definitely don't like all the saturation, but we'll fix it later. Don't worry. I actually know how it ends. So you can see here I'm using my standard techniques, painting below the line art, then quickly switching to being above the line art and just kind of painting over all the lines, because the lines get kind of ugly if you want to use a painterly style. It's best to just get rid of them. Use your painting skills, get rid of all the lines eventually. Use them as guidelines. You can see I'm constantly flipping off and on the color layer right here, the painting layer. So I can actually see the line work, because I don't want to lose the energy of it. And that's very important to me, maintaining the energy. I'm having a lot of fun with the eyes. Once again, keeping them in a grayer tone than you might think. I don't want to bring them to white because I want to have those strong highlights on them. But I had a lot of fun doing that. So in the meantime, I actually want to tell a story because I think it would be fun. I have an amusing GunBound story for you guys. So if you know me, you might know that I'm kind of a obsessive personality person where I like to try everything. I'm not really satisfied just mastering one thing. I like to have a lot of hobbies. I try all different types of art, and I try all different types of everything, to be honest. I had way too many hobbies as a kid. But I ran into the game GunBound during a time where I was very interested in like video game hacking, which sounds really silly when you hear me say it at first, but bear with me, I will make it sound more appealing, I promise you. So if you don't know how video game hacking works, I can tell you there's basically two simple approaches to it. One is to edit the hexadecimal kind of code on your computer. So basically, you're finding out where the values are for every little thing that's happening in the game, and then you're modifying it. You know, you might be able to hack anything on your computer. You might be able to hack Photoshop and find brushes that didn't exist. The principle of this is basically that you take a value that you're trying to find, such as a brush in Photoshop, and you change the value. So you change the brush, and then you research all of the hexadecimal values in the code for, say, Photoshop, and then you see what changed. And then you do it again without changing the brush, and you say what didn't change. And you keep doing this process until you narrow down one little address, which is going to be the hexadecimal value for what brush you're using. And maybe, I doubt it, but maybe in Photoshop there's a brush that you don't know about. It's super secret. And the only way you find out that it's there is because you notice when you're picking through all the different brushes, you pick brush 1, and maybe that hexadecimal is 0, 0. You pick brush 2, it's 0, 1. And then you pick brush 3, and it's 0, 3. And you say, wait a minute, where's 0, 2? Well, if you actually edit manually the hex for the program, you'll find that, oh, there's something hidden in there. And that's kind of the basics of what you're doing. You're messing with the actual hexadecimal values to create something interesting. So anyway, that's one way to hack a game, and the other way is kind of more crazy. I don't know, it's more interesting. It's called actually like packet sniffing, if you want to call it that, but you're actually editing the packets, which is the information you send over the internet, to the server, and you're editing the hexadecimal information that you're sending as it goes out. So maybe you set it to actually edit, you intercept it as it's traveling from your computer to their computer, and you edit it. And that's kind of a more complex way. But basically, you combine all this stuff together and you can become a crazy hacker. And I did it not because I have any interest in cheating at games, and you'll find that a lot of people that are actually into it, into this hacking world, aren't actually interested in cheating at the games, but they're actually just interested in like a puzzle. Because I can tell you, it was a very satisfying puzzle just trying to decipher the code and trying to find new weird things to do inside the game. And I would often just go into games alone or with other people and just kind of mess around trying to find out weird things. And it was a game in itself. That was the fun. Some people play Sudoku or something, but I was super into game hacking for a while. So it's actually interesting. I was so into it that people actually started recognizing me, and there was this giant group of, little game hackers on GunBound. I think they went by the name like YYY or something, because that was the name of the main hacker. And they invited me on their little forum. And for some reason, they thought I was so great at creating these super weird hacks, because everything I was doing was super strange compared to the normal stuff people do. So they actually invited me to be like one of the head people. So there were 4 heads of this hacker organization, and I got to be one of them. And I can tell you, the hacker organization had this communist structure with different tiers. Like there was the worker class, and I got to be on this luxury class of ruling the peons and deciding what hacks we would give them, because me and the other amazing people there, we would discover just completely crazy stuff that would ruin the whole servers of the game, that would do all this crazy stuff. And it was obviously too much power and responsibility to just hand out to everyone, because if we did that, then not only would it get like patched out, but it wouldn't be as fun for us. So we hid all of our greatest secrets, and we'd dismiss all of our weakest little hacks to all the people below us, and they would beg for more, and we would say, maybe we'll give you something more fancy someday. But that was a very exciting little exercise in communism that went well for a while, until all the commoners kind of rioted and threw their little temper tantrum, and it was a good time. So that's kind of my story of hacking GunBound. I didn't really get into the stories, but we would have crazy hacker battles, just like us 4 top tier people. I had one little hack that let me teleport around the screen like a ninja right before stuff was hitting me. It was very fun. So those were some good times. But anyway, back to this painting. You see, I'm pretty much done with rendering it now. So sorry for getting carried away with the rambling nostalgia. I was having some good memory flashbacks. So I'm actually want to talk about some post-processing, some rendering things you can do once you're done with a painting. So the first one I want to talk about has been kind of popular. You may have seen it on DeviantArt a lot, but not even known it if you go to a place like that. But this is actually a fun little trick. If you take your finished painting and duplicate it to a new layer, and then you go into your FX blending options, you can turn off some of the RGB color channels, and then you just slightly move the layer to the left or the right. And you'll see it creates this weird, like, colorized little effect around the edges. And this has become very popular. I see it a lot on people like Kronprinz or, any of those popular DeviantArt people's work. And it's kind of creates a stylish effect. So I recommend experimenting with it. The next little post-processing effect I want to talk about is pretty obvious. You might do it already. But this is similar. I'm going to take the whole painting, put it on a new layer, and then I'm just gonna blur it, just completely, just Gaussian blur it until it's just a big blurry mess. And then go back in and erase all the parts that I want to be in focus. And that's usually the face or anything really close to camera. you know, you kind of can set this this aperture distance and really create a strong focal point, and everything else is going to be blurry. And if you want to bump that up to the next level, you can actually take this blur layer and add noise to it, and that will create that grainy effect that you also see on DeviantArt a lot. So that's two interesting little post-processing techniques. One other one, of course, I've talked about a lot, is just the liquify tool, which you see me playing around with here. And the liquify tool is crazy strong. It's completely changed the world of computer illustration with just how much you can do with it. I can completely change her expression. You can see I made her a little more happy, a little more cuter and innocent. And you can do it while still maintaining all your stroke and render quality that you've established. So it's really fun to play with that. So that's pretty much it for those little fun things. And normally what I'm doing right now, I should have done earlier, but what I'm doing is I'm adding a drop shadow. And normally you do that first before you get into all the post-process stuff. But I forgot about it. So anyway, I just drew a quick little idea of what I thought she might look like from a different angle, the angle that would be hitting the ground. So I had to do some mental calculations about the lighting and stuff. And then I just put it on an overlay type multiply. I forget what type of layer. Probably multiply. And then I just deleted out the parts that obviously were blocked by the figure. And that's pretty much it. I liquefied it too to make sure it lined up properly and moved stuff around, just making it look pretty. So I think that's gonna be it for this painting. You can see all the little details there, all the little effects I added. I don't know if they show up well on video, but I will have a link in the description below to some finished art that you can look at. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. And actually, I have a little bonus for you guys. I almost forgot. I did make a little 3D image for this artwork. So you can check that out on this little 3DS thing. Once again, you can hold up your 3DS and scan the QR code with your 3DS. It'll open in a browser and you can see some 3D art. So I think that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you learned some new post-processing techniques and you had fun watching art and hearing about, you know, the exciting world of video game hackers, which is really not that exciting unless you're a giant dork like me. But thank you for watching, and thank you to all my patrons for supporting these videos.